Hello and welcome to Rao's IAS. It's such a great honor to meet young and bright minds who want to create a career for themselves in the field of civil service examination. Now, we have named this session especially as Roadmap for the Civil Service Examination, and there is a specific meaning to it. Now, when we talk about the roadmap, why we have named it likewise? We have named it likewise because we understand that in this era of internet, there is so much of information, so much of guidance which is available online that at times we need to confuse, at times we actually find it difficult to understand what is right, what is wrong. At the same time, when we talk about a newbie civil servant, someone who is going to appear for the examination in say 2021, maybe 2022, what he needs to do right in order to clear for the examination. When we come across new young civil service aspirants, what they come up with a query. They come up with a query, sir, how to manage Yojana, how to manage Kurukshetra, how many mock tests should I appear? Just imagine their plight. They are accumulating and hoarding resources. They're getting notes of toppers, notes from coaching institutes, and ultimately they keep on jumping from one source to another. And this is where the problem strikes. They become overwhelmed by the entire situation. And this is where we have actually clarified what is the roadmap for the civil service examination. So the idea is to give you a very clear-cut idea about how to start in this entire process, how to move forward, why not to worry about bigger questions that bother you right now. Handle the smaller question right now, and we will tackle the bigger question in the later course of action. So the idea is very simple. What we will do, we will actually give you a very simple plan with simple measurable goals. And if you move on these simple measurable goals, there will be milestones which are attached. And these milestones, if you move forward, they will actually lead to grand success in examination, which our toppers have also done. So this simple, smart approach is what is required. Now, here, when we talk about this entire session, who is going to guide you? Now, in this session, Rao's IAS is definitely the platform. And when we talk about the people who are going to guide us, we have Mr. Prabhu Dayal, who's a former IFS officer, Mr. Jatin Kishore, who happens to be a student, Rao's IAS GSI student, who scored rank 2 in this year. There will be Sanjita Mohapatra, who has scored rank 10. She was part of our interview guidance program. There is Mr. Raunak Agarwal, he's ranked 13. He utilized our prelims and mains compass in this process. And next is Himanshu Gupta, who was part of current affairs. Next is Namgyal Angmo, who was part of a GSI student, as well as economics optional. So these are the people who know this examination well. These are also the people who have witnessed success and failure. And the idea is to actually lay down the complete plan for you. We will define goals, that goals which are measurable, the goals which are rational. And once we do these goals systematically, we will definitely achieve success. So how, what, and why, all these questions will be answered in this entire process. So what we need to actually highlight today, when we're starting this session, we are sitting on 23rd of August. Now, UPSC has already given the calendar, released the calendar, and you are aware of the fact that on 27th of June, 2021, there will be prelims examination. The mains examination date is also out. That will be 17th of September, and this will be a 5-day affair. Normally, whenever you talk to any kind of person, he will normally refer that whenever you're preparing for examination, you should actually have at least 1 year beforehand start preparing for the examination. But because of the COVID-19 lockdown, the kind of problem that we have seen, we are already a little delayed in this entire process. Now, the point is how to solve this problem. In this system, Rao's IAS has launched its online GSI program, which can actually help you in performing better in the coming examination. You can actually prepare in a full-fledged manner from the comfort of the home. And once the situation improves, there are better norms available, then you can come and join our campuses in Delhi, Jaipur, or Bangalore. So this is the entire thing. We will not talk about the session right now in terms of GSI online program. We will talk about the more important things right now. So the first thing first, the important question is how to actually approach CSI, the research examination. Now, before we start this entire thing, When we talk about the civils examination, the first thing that should come to your mind is what is your motivation? Now, I had a word with Ms. Sanjita Mohapatra, and she explained her motivation that the thrust to achieve bigger things in terms of nation building was something that was a motivating factor. Even if you talk about anyone, be it Namgyal, Jatin Kishore, anyone, they will also express a similar kind of desire. So what I will ask you, suggest you, pause the entire thing for next 5 seconds. Put your hand on your heart and think about what is your true motivation. If you get the answer correctly, it will be much more easy to keep yourself motivated in this entire journey. I will actually now invite our first speaker, Mr. Prabhu Dayal ji, and this session is now being taken over by him. I will actually introduce about Mr. Prabhu Dayal. Prabhu Dayal ji is a former IFS officer. He completed his post-graduation from Allahabad University in 1974, became a teacher, and later in 1975, he became an IFS officer. Mind it, in 1975, he scored rank 2. In those days, it was actually much more fashionable to choose IFS over anything else. And hence, he chose IFS. Now, as far as Mr. Prabhu Dayal is concerned, he was ambassador to Kuwait and Morocco. He was consul general in New York and Dubai, and he served in Cairo, Karachi, Geneva, and Iran. He has also authored 2 books by the name of Karachi Halwa and Surajpur Connection. He has been a panelist in TV shows on the international relations. As far as the other aspects are concerned, he is also part of our interview guidance program at Rouse IAS. Many people who have got interviewed and achieved success have been into his panel. So I will invite Mr. Prabhu Dayal. Sir, please come.
Well, friends, I'm very honored to be here with you this morning when we are talking about the roadmap for the UPSC Civil Services. I am extremely flattered by the generous introduction just now given to me, about me by Mr. Nagendra. But that reminded me of a little story which I must share with you. There was a man who was going to die. But the problem was that the authorities could not decide whether he should go to heaven or to hell. The reason was that he was good, but not so good as to be sent to heaven. And he was bad, but not so bad as to be sent to hell. So they said, let's give him the choice. And they called him and said, you decide whether you want to go to heaven or to hell. So he said, can I take a look at both places? They said, sure. So they took him down the corridor. There was a door. There was a little glass. You could peep through that. So he peeped in. It was heaven. Very saintly atmosphere. And there were temples, churches, mosques, synagogues. Everybody was praying. It was all very quiet and nice. He said, can I see hell? So they took him to the other side of the corridor. There was another door with a peephole. He could see inside, and he could see discotheques, bars, casinos. Everybody was having a great time. He said, yeah, heaven is nice, but I think I will take hell. So it's all right. And they opened the door, and immediately he was thrown in a tub of boiling oil. So he screamed. He said, what's this? You showed me something else. They said, that was the publicity. This is the real thing. So what Mr. Nagendra just now told you about me was perhaps written by my publicity agents. And I hope that the real thing will not disappoint you. Well, once again, I'm very pleased and honored to be here with you this morning when we are discussing the roadmap for the UPSC Civil Services. Now, the UPSC Civil Services are among the most attractive career choices you can have. Why is that so? I think the meaning lies hidden in the letters which make up the word civil. Let us try and see what these letters denote. C stands for content. The content of civil service jobs is always full of challenges. Now, very often the media describes civil servants as babus, as if the jobs which they do are clerical in nature, routine, and boring. But that's far from the truth. There are, of course, routine tasks which a civil service person is required to perform. But there are also immense challenges. And overcoming these challenges is a joy in itself. Whichever civil service career you get, you will find that you have to surmount challenges. And that makes the career very attractive. Then the next letter in civil is I. And to me, that denotes importance. The tasks in government which you perform are important because you are working for the government. And overcoming these challenges themselves is something that gives you importance. In the place where you live, the place where you work, you are always regarded as an important person. Then we come to the letter V, which is the third letter in civil. Now, V denotes variety. A civil service career offers a lot of variety. In the IAS, for instance, and the IPS, you are posted in districts, at state headquarters. You are posted in Delhi at the headquarters of the central government. You can be posted elsewhere. Likewise, in all services, you are moved and transferred every 3 years or so from place to place, from one assignment to another. Of course, in the foreign service, the variety is even more. You move from country to country, from continent to continent. So the aspect of variety gives the civil services a very unusual charm. This factor makes them very attractive. The next letter again is I. Civil, the fourth letter is I. And that, I think, stands for impact. Because when you are a civil servant, you have the opportunity to make a great impact on people whom you come across, people whom you serve, people whose lives you can make better, people who can be beholden to you because of the good you do for them. So the impact which a civil servant can have makes, again, the civil services a very attractive career. And last but not the least, the fifth letter of civil is L. And that, of course, denotes lifestyle. Because when you're overcoming challenges, you're working so hard, when you're trying to do good to people, you deserve a good lifestyle. And I think the government of India ensures that you have a good salary and you have good perks. Now, mind you, it doesn't make you a millionaire. But then life is not all about being millionaires. It is about being comfortable. You will live well. Your children will go to good schools. You will have good medical facilities. So the creature comforts of life are all provided by the civil services. And that is why the examination to enter the civil services is perhaps one of the toughest in the world. I was just told that about 10 lakh people apply for the civil services and at least 6 to 7 lakhs actually appear. That's an enormous number. So, what do you do? Very often, I'm asked by young people, can I make it? If I appear for the civil services, will I be successful? And my answer to them is, yes, you can. I don't know whether you remember when Obama was contesting for elections, he and his supporters had a slogan, "Yes, we can." So I tell every civil service aspirant, yes, you can. You must have the confidence, because confidence is half the battle won. But there is a difference between genuine confidence and false confidence. How can you get genuine confidence? You will get genuine confidence only when you get guidance and advice and training from experts. Now, that is why I believe that the Rouse IAS Study Circle is an expert body and will provide you the right sort of advice and guidance. Now, mind you, Rouse was set up in 1953, and I was born that year. So Rouse has been around as long as I have been on this planet. And all these years, it has been training civil servants and ensuring that they get good careers. So it's important that when you seek guidance, you should go to the right sort of place. As they say, the proof of the pudding lies in the eating of it. And by successfully training people all these years, I think Rouse has provided the proof of the pudding. Then, of course, some people ask me, when do we start? When do we start our preparation process? And my answer always is, you have to start now. You can't waste even a single day in planning your preparation. You have to start preparing immediately. Remember, there is an old Sanskrit saying, shlok, alasasya hi manushyanam mahan ripu asti, nahi suptasya singhasya pravishanti mukhendra, which means that alas or idleness is the worst enemy of a man, and a deer will not enter the mouth of a sleeping lion. The lion has to struggle, the lion has to make efforts. So you have to make efforts, and you have to start making those efforts now itself. It is never too early. Remember, the early bird catches the worm. Now, of course, there is also this question which is asked of me, will I have to work very hard for the civil services exam? The answer is yes, of course. You will have to work very, very hard. It's a difficult exam. It's a challenging exam. But believe me, if you succeed, it will give you, your parents, your other family members, your friends, and all your well-wishers an immense amount of joy. As was mentioned in the introduction, I was teaching in the Allahabad University after having done my master's, and the workload was quite a lot, so I didn't get too much time to prepare. I was, of course, preparing, but I decided that I needed to put in my very best. So when the university closed for the summer exams, I shut myself up. I shaved my head. I stayed indoors for 2 months. And during that time, I revised and mastered whatever I had been preparing in the years before the exam was to take place. In other words, at some point, not only you have to work hard, but you have to put everything on top gear. You have to peak at the right moment. Now, mind you, I had been preparing for the civil services exam for years and years. When I was in class 5, my next door neighbor, Justice Verma, who was the Chief Justice of Allahabad High Court, his son, Rajnikant Verma, topped the civil services exam. And he joined the Foreign Service. So from that time, I was inspired to do well in the civil services. I began to train in public speaking. elocution, declamation. I was a regular participant in debates. I used to read a variety of newspapers, particularly the op-eds. I tried my best to look at what the exam was all about. Then when I joined university, I took guidance to study those subjects in university which offered me better prospects in the civil services exam. So it was a long period of training, which really, I would say, commenced when I was inspired when I was in class 5. And slowly I trained myself to be a civil servant, to appear in the exam, peaking very, very much closer to the exams. And well, the result was I came second. Then there was a question of which career I was to choose. I had opted for the foreign service as my first choice because my inspiration, Rajnikant Verma, had also taken the foreign service. Very often, young aspirants today ask me, why did you choose the foreign service? You know, the IAS is the preferred service. Well, those days, the foreign service was the preferred service. In my batch, 1, 2, 3, 4, we took the foreign service. Out of the top 10, 7 took the foreign service. So the question is, why was it so? I think most people wanted to have an opportunity to take up new challenges. Everybody had heard of diplomatic life. But what was it like? They wanted to experience. You serve the country when you are here, but you also serve the country when you're abroad. So the foreign service, to me and my colleagues who joined the foreign service that time, including ranks number 1, 2, 3, 4, were all looking forward to combating diplomatic challenges. Now, I'm asked from time to time, which posting did you find the most challenging? Now, I served in Egypt, Pakistan, Geneva at the United Nations. I served in Iran. I was Consul General Dubai. I was Ambassador Kuwait. I was Ambassador Morocco. And then I was Consul General New York. Now, all these postings were challenging. I enjoyed all of them. But certainly, the most challenging out of these was Pakistan. I was there from 81 to 85. And when I reached in 81, it was barely 10 years after the 71 war in which Pakistan had been badly defeated and which had led to the creation of Bangladesh. So as far as the government was concerned, I was regarded as a person from a hostile country, enemy. But by a lot of people did open their doors to me, and I got the opportunity to meet a lot of Pakistanis. I found that they had a great sense of humor. For instance, at that time, Pakistan was being ruled by Zia-ul-Haq. He was a military dictator. And when he took over power from Zulfikar Ali Bhutto and staged a coup, he had promised to hold elections within 100 days. But those 100 days kept passing, and he would not hold elections. He would give one excuse or the other why elections could not be held. So there was a joke in Pakistani society, which I heard and which I loved. You know, that a barber used to go and shave President Zia from time to time. And when he would be shaving, he would start asking President Zia that, when are you going to have elections? So Zia would say, well, I'll see, maybe after a month or something, after 2 months. So every time when he would shave President Zia, he would ask this question, when are you going to have elections? So one day the president got very angry. He said, what? It's not your business. You're just a barber. How are you concerned when I will have elections? So he said, no, I'm not concerned when you will have elections. It's just that when I mention the word elections, your hair stands up and it becomes easy for me to shave you. So the Pakistanis, I found, had a delightful sense of humor. And although the government was treating me all the time as an enemy, but I was enjoying this humor in Pakistani society because the press was muzzled. Nonetheless, people could talk amongst themselves and try and keep up their morale. The army was and still is in Pakistan the main center of power. Democracy has not really been allowed to flourish. Even if there's a civilian government, it is the army which calls the shots. And there was a feeling at that time, and there's a feeling even now, that the army in Pakistan has been feathering its own nest. The generals have been enriching themselves at the cost of the people. And there again, I heard a lovely Pakistani joke, which I'd like to share with you, that once all the generals of the world were sent up in a rocket to orbit outer space and to see where all there were problems on Earth, because the idea was that the generals should be able to talk to each other and sort out the tension areas. So in the rocket, they saw that there was an American general. He was peering down one side. He was asked, "What are you trying to see?" He said, "Well, I'm seeing where the Soviet troops are deployed." Those days, it was the Soviet Union. Soviet troops are deployed. So the Russian general was on the other side, and he was asked, "What are you looking at?" He said, "Well, I'm trying to see where the American troops are deployed in Europe, etc." So the Indian general was asked, he was looking at where the Chinese troops are and the Pakistani troops are. And there was the Pakistani general in one corner looking intently in one side of the telescope and not looking at anybody else, but he was so busy with what he was doing. So they asked him, "Are you looking at where the Indian troops are?" He says, No, I'll do that later. I'm trying to see which corner plot is available in the Lahore Housing Society. So that is how the people of Pakistan were reacting to the people. It was a suppressive government. Suppressive governments have taken hold in that country one after the other. Democracy has not really taken hold. I was able to study Pakistan at close hand. I was able to also study Pakistan from headquarters, because then when I came back from my posting, I was on the Pakistan desk. So it was a very educative experience. Similarly, I enjoyed my other postings too. And I found that the Foreign Service was a very exciting career. Of course, it is the most well-paid career in the government, because apart from your salary, you're given a very handsome foreign allowance. Your children go to international schools, all paid for by the government of India. You live in very good accommodation, in nice cities, and you serve your country. What can be better than that? So I'm only mentioning this that because I was told during my informal interactions with civil service aspirants with whom I interacted during the mock interviews which we conducted here at Rouse, they didn't seem to know enough about the Foreign Service, and they wondered how their children's education would suffer and whether they would be paid well enough. So for that reason, I'm mentioning to you who are young civil service aspirants that financially you have no reason to worry. In terms of the children's education, you have nothing to worry. But of course, ultimately, the choice of a career is yours. Which service you want to join depends on your preference. You have your strong likes, and perhaps you have your dislikes. So it's up to you to decide. But remember, once you make a choice, once you join a career, do your best. Do your best to serve the country. Do your best to distinguish yourself. Do your best to make a mark. The road to the civil services is difficult. Once you join, things are challenging, but there lies the greatness. Without a challenge, a career is no good. All the best to you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for such an enlightening experience. Now you've understood what are the benefits or the perks of being a civil servant. And this comes directly from the horse's mouth. Now you understand, if you clear this examination, what kind of a life you can lead, what kind of retirement you can have. But right now, it is not a time to think about future. In that sense, right now, we should focus on the immediate goal. An immediate goal in which we actually want to organize our thought process. We need to understand the nature of the examination, how, what, and why to do anything that is important. Now, I would take this opportunity to invite Mr. Jatin Kishore. You must be aware of the fact that Mr. Jatin Kishore is rank 2, and this was his second attempt at UPSC. But his credentials go much farther than that. In the very first attempt at IAS, that is Indian Economic Services, he scored rank 1. He has been a top performer all through, and he was our GSI program student, the same flagship program that we actually have introduced in the online format as well. So you can see how good the person is doing after getting the right set of guidance. Now here, when I talk to Jatin Kishore has been such an achiever in terms of rank 1 in IAS, rank 2 in UPSC. So we want him to focus more about how to orient oneself from the perspective of the examination. So I would request Mr. Jatin Kishore to unmute himself.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, sir. Thank you for having me here, inviting me. And it's a very nice experience to talk to all of you. As sir mentioned, I'll be sharing some of my thoughts and experiences, what I went through, and I'll be talking about the general approach and the orientation that one should have, as well as the importance of the syllabus, firstly, and the previous year papers, what role they play in the examination. So whenever we begin our preparation, we begin with the syllabus usually, and rightly so, because it's the document that tells us what all is expected from us, what all we'll be required to study when we are preparing for this examination. So initially, when we look at the syllabus, it can be a pretty overwhelming experience. It was for me as well, because you realize that there's a significant amount of things that you have to cover, different subjects that you have to study. But as sir mentioned before, this is a long process. You don't need to be worried. You don't have to do this in a month or 2 months or so on. You at least 1 to 2 years of dedicated study is required at minimum. The examination process is also a very long process, and you will be spending a significant amount of time to this exam. So don't get bogged down by looking at the syllabus. Take things slowly. Take it step by step, and the most important thing here is to remain consistent. Consistency is one of the most important things that that is needed in this exam, because unlike school or college exams, you can't just study very hard for 15-20 days or a month or so and then do well. This exam demands consistent study over a long time, so you cannot sustain a very high level of study for a few days and then give up after some time. So the important thing here is to plan properly, set realistic goals for yourself, and then try and achieve these goals consistently. So consistency is one of the most important things. Now, coming on to the question of previous year papers. So usually we start out, when we are starting our preparation, we look at some of the past year papers. And I think that's a good idea. You should look at 1 or 2 past year papers to just get a sense of the idea what all sort of questions are asked, what is the approach UPSC is taking. But at this point, I would not recommend that you go too deep into this process, because initially when you are starting your preparation, you don't have a lot of knowledge about what all is expected. So when you go through these papers, and if you go through too many of them, you'll realize that you don't know a lot of the answers, and that's natural. You haven't studied. How will you be able to answer these questions? So that initially, if you look at too many questions as well, that can be a little demotivating. So I would suggest you just look at 1 or 2 past year papers. Don't go too deep into this process, so that you just get a basic sense of idea about what sort of questions are expected, both prelims and mains. So what I would recommend in the initial 3, 4, 5 months of your study, you should focus on the 4 or 5 main subjects that are asked both in the mains and the prelims exam. So things like history, geography, polity, economy, environment, basically these common subjects, and you should focus on them. Try and build up some knowledge base, some content base that you can build upon. Of course, I'm not saying you should finish these subjects in these 3-4 months. You won't be able to cover everything, and you'll forget. That is a part of the process, and that will come over time once you start revising. So just spend a little time on these basic subjects, build up your foundations. That is very important. After that, I would recommend that you come back to the syllabus, because a lot of the times there are small topics that we tend to neglect. So for example, in GS paper 1, there's a section on society. Then we have GS paper 2, we have governance, and several other such topics which we tend to take lightly, that these are too general in nature. It's true, it's a little general. And we find it a little hard to do as well, because there aren't any specific textbooks for these. So we tend to neglect these aspects. But I think personally, I feel that that's a very dangerous thing to do, because these topics are equally, if not more important. And being smaller topics, you can prepare well for these topics. And invariably every year there are questions on these topics. So you have to be very careful. So after you've done your initial study of your basic subjects, you should move on syllabus topic wise. So each term in the syllabus, you should have something around 200, 300 words. This I'm talking from the mains point of view. So you should have something or the other that you will be able to write in the exam, because once you start looking at the papers, you will realize that most of the questions, they revolve around these terms itself. There won't be any direct questions as such. There'll be some twist or the other every year, and UPSC will try and frame the questions, but you must have this basic content in your mind, or you can prepare it from some books or the internet, some basic facts and figures, some recent events that have happened in relation to those topics, but something you should have in your mind that you can frame and structure your answer when you are writing the mains exam. So that is something very important. So go over the syllabus properly. Each and every topic should be covered well. Of course, it will depend. Some topics you'll find a little harder to do, a little difficult. So you can spend some less time on that. But I would recommend that no topic should be skipped entirely, because that is something that you'll just miss out on marks that you could have gotten. Then at this point, I would also recommend that you start going into previous year papers more carefully, because once you start looking at the trends, you'll find that similar sort of questions come every year. So for example, I remember in the geography portion, GS paper 1 again, there's almost invariably a question on industrial location and what are the factors that are deciding where different industries are located. I remember last year when I gave the mains exam, there was a question on food processing. And we have similar questions in the past year papers. So these kind of questions, you should identify these patterns, see what all areas UPSC is focusing on, because these are marks that you cannot afford to lose on. These areas will definitely be asked in some form or the other, and a little preparation for these such topics is very important. So this was mainly about the idea of the syllabus and the previous year papers. Second thing that I would like to focus on, which is perhaps the most important thing for this examination, is revision. So revision is perhaps the single most important thing. I cannot stress that enough. You shouldn't, because as had been mentioned initially, there's so much material available, both online, offline, and one can get really confused. There's a lot of information that is available, but you have to remain focused on whatever you've done and do that properly. Most of the books are known to most toppers, people who have qualified last year in the previous years, have recommended similar books. There's a standard sort of list, which I'm sure all of you must be aware of. I also followed most of those sources. So stick to the standard books and do them properly instead of running after multiple sources. That will not help you very much, because unless you've revised something twice or thrice at least, you will not be able to remember and reproduce in the exam. Because there's so much that you have to cover, that multiple revisions are very, very important. Then the third thing that I would like to focus on is time management within the 3 hours that you are writing the exam. So time management before when you are studying is a separate thing, and that is also very important. But I would like to emphasize this, that within those 3 hours that you are writing the exam, managing your time is equally, if not more important. Because as I'm sure all of you are aware, the UPSC exams are pretty lengthy. You are expected to write quite a lot, and managing your time properly in the exam becomes very important. So a lot of the time we go with this perception that we are going to write 20 very good answers, which is not very feasible in the long run. You'll realize once you start practicing and once you start writing that you'll never be able to write 20 very, very good answers in the 3 hours that are given to you. Most of your answers would be average, some would be good, and some would be not so good. And that is what you should be aiming at. So what I try to do in my mains exam was I try to complete all of the papers. So for some questions, you'll not be able to write very good answers, but even in those questions, you should try and attempt at least something or the other. You can write maybe a definition, or maybe you can give 1 or 2 examples that you remember. But please try and write something in each question, because that will help you get those 1 or 2 extra marks, and that can make a lot of difference. in your selection, in your ranking, what service you get. So all of this makes a lot of difference. And again, coming back to the initial portion where I said that you should have something or the other to write on each term of the syllabus, and this will help you in the exam, because if you have some material prepared, you'll definitely be able to write something. Initially it might seem that you don't know a lot, but trust me, when you've studied 1 or 2 years, you'll have something or the other on most topics. You'll get familiar with what sort of questions are asked, and you'll have some material to write. So I've mostly been focusing on mains, because I feel that mains is the biggest chunk where your actual selection and the service and the position that you get is decided. So mains is of course the most important part of this exam. But one last thing that I'd like to add is from the prelims perspective. So often I have felt, I had also experienced this a lot of the time. We are very conservative when we are attempting questions. We are quite risk averse when we are attempting questions. And that is something that can be quite dangerous. So this is something that I faced in my first prelims exam. I couldn't clear my first prelims exam, and then I made these changes. So I'll just give a small example. So for example, if you are trying to attempt say 70 questions and you get around 55 correct and 15 wrong, so you end up with a score of around 100. But if you then suppose you attempt 10 more questions, so you attempt total 80 questions and you only get 5 more correct out of those 10 extra you've attempted. So that's not a very good accuracy rate if you think about it. It's only a 50% increase. You only answered 50% of the questions right, but now you've got 60 correct answers and 20 wrong answers. But this increases your score to 106. Now, it might seem that it's not a big difference. This six marks is not going to make a huge difference. But trust me, around this 100-mark point is where those 6 marks actually matter. Because I'm not sure how many of you know about it, but last few years, the cutoffs for prelims have been hovering around this mark, 98, early hundreds. And this 6 marks can be the difference between you writing mains or not. This is something that I faced in my first prelims, and some of you might also experience this. So I understand negative marking is there, and all of us are a little concerned, what if I go wrong? But you'll realize that if you don't attempt enough questions in the first place, you'll anyway be out. So try and experiment a little. Mock tests in this situation help quite a lot, and I would recommend that you try. And of course, just to make this clear, 80 is no magic number or anything. This was just an example that I was giving. So try and experiment, and you will have to adapt your strategy in the exam hall itself. Because a lot of the time, the nature of the question paper will decide how many questions you will attempt. Sometimes you'll get more difficult paper and you'll be able to attempt less questions. Sometimes you'll get an easier paper and then you'll be able to attempt more questions. So you'll have to adapt and adjust your strategy accordingly. So these were some of the things that I thought might prove to be useful for some of you. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Jatin, for sharing this piece of wisdom. I think we should also learn from Jatin one simple thing, that whenever you talk about economics as an optional, economics basically deals with one aspect: how to utilize limited resources to achieve maximum benefit. And this is what Jatin has done and showed in this entire process. And this you can do only when you understand the true nature of the examination. You understand how it actually is important to go through the prelim syllabus, go through the main syllabus, understand the previous year trend in terms of previous year papers, and then develop approach. Most of the people basically jump all this. They start preparing for the main straight away, and they start preparing for bigger questions which actually should not trouble them in the initial stage. And that is where this entire process is. Now we will actually move to next participant in this case. This is Mr. Raunak Agarwal, who scored rank 13. He is basically a very interesting person because he has education in the field of commerce and accountancy, and he's CA as well. And he's a topper. He scored rank 5. Now, he also utilized Rao's IAS notes for prelims and mains in the form of prelims and mains compass, and he liked it. Now, the point that I want to now hand over, that there are people who basically understand the examination in true spirit. So first, when we talked about Jatin, he focused on how to prepare yourself. Raunak will be discussing the importance of core subjects. Now, most of us get confused about what to do first, what to do not. The core subject, when you talk about polity, economy, history, geography. These are the basic core subjects. Now the advanced subjects, for example, like if I talk about ethics or maybe disaster management, these are little far-fetched. So Raunak, in one of his conversation, has clearly mentioned that the core subject is something that's a basic building block. So you have understood how the examination is basically structured. The second point is how to build your basic building, which can actually lead to the realization of your dream. So now I'm transferring to Raunak. Raunak, please unmute yourself.
Hello, everyone. So thank you so much for having me here. And I would just like to add one point to Prabhu sir's speech. He told about importance of civil. I would also like everyone who is entering into the preparation on the importance of service as well. The name is civil service. So kindly, each and everyone who is entering into the profession and trying for the examinations, just keep in mind the idea is service, and then you enter into the profession. All right, now going on to the discussion stage, how to prepare. The most important thing in the entire process is patience and perseverance, along with consistency, as Jatin had told. Now, once you have decided I'll be preparing for civil services, then you start wondering, how do I start? That is the biggest problem, because if the foundation stone is wrongly laid, then the entire process might go haywire. And that is what happened with me in my first attempt. What happens is that people tell you that start practicing answer writing, go on reading the current affairs from day one itself, prepare for ethics, prepare for social issues. I would just like to mention one thing, that these are areas which come later on in the mains. Definitely mains and personality test are the ones which give you the rank, but ultimately first you have to clear the barrier of the prelims, and which impacted me the most. This was my third attempt, and in the past two attempts I could not clear prelims itself. So focus on ethics, focus on optionals, focus on social issues only after you're sure that you can sail through prelims. That is the basic agenda. Now, when we start preparing, the basic questions which come to our mind is, a few questions are, number one, are all NCERTs important from class 6 to 12? Number two, do I make notes? And number three, how and where and when should I start preparing for the current affairs? So I'll just start answering by the first question, that first is, do I make notes? It depends on how you have prepared in the past. If you have made notes in your class 12 or graduation, then you have to make notes for your preparation UPSC. If you haven't, it's totally optional. Like, I did not go for notes. Rather, what I did was, if in any case I am referring 2 or 3 sources, I would jot down the extra points into a particular source, but I would not go for complete note making. For me, it was a time wastage process, but many people might prefer making notes. It's totally optional. There is no thumb rule for that. Second, are NCERTs important? Again, it depends on how strong were you in your class 10s. Like history, geography, civics, then science. This is all we have read in class 10. But how well you know, like many people have called me, the first question which I asked them is, do you know which came first, non-cooperation or civil disobedience? If you know, it means you have a little base. If not, you have to start with the NCERTs. But if you are through with your basic concepts, if you remember that crust, mantle, and core are the 3 layers of the earth, if you know basic about a virus, if you know basic about bacteriophage, in that case, you can start with the advanced books. It's totally, again, depending upon how you have fared till class 10, whether you have mugged up or you have really understood and you remember those things. So if a person says that you have to read class 6 to 12 NCERTs for each and every subject, it's not really that the point. It depends on how strong you were in your past. Third is how to start the process. Now, as sir has already told about history, geography, polity, I would just like to focus on one thing, that people, what they do is that they like, for example, if it's a 12-month process, they work hard in the later 6 months and not in the first 6 months. Rather, the most important thing is to get into the process within the 6 months itself, the first 6 months itself, because that is the most important, wherein you have to understand each and every topic of the general studies, because whether current affairs, whether mock tests, whether even optionals, whether essay writing, these are all dependent and corollary to the general studies paper. Now talking about how you should approach them. what I did was I studied 2 subjects at one go. Like for example, if I'm making schedule for a particular week, I took 2 subjects in my hand. So might be around 1 chapter of history and 1 chapter of polity. It depends on how you have the habit of studying. But the most important thing, as Jatin also mentioned, is revision. What people do is that they complete the entire syllabus for first 5 months, and then they revise what they had read in the first month. This is something which becomes the most problematic, because, for example, if you have read polity from Lakshmikant, for example, in the first month, for example, in August, and you start revising that in January, then by January, entire thing will be brushed away. You will not remember anything. How you can cure is that start revising Lakshmikant again, might be in September or October. So like while you're reading geography in October, take out a week for Lakshmikant as well. This is how you are already in the flow, and you actually try and recall at random whatever fact you have learned in the past, so that you know how much waters are you in. Now talking about the current affairs, what I did was I did not know how important current affairs is. So I did not touch any booklet or any matter of current affairs for the first 5 months. I started preparing in January. And by the time January arrived, my first attempt, and by the time January arrived, I thought that now I have to cover all the 5 or 6 booklets in one go, and then cover for the other months as well. What I would suggest is start it from the first one itself, but after building up little base. For example, we all have read something about geography, history, but you might not have read about polity. You might not have read about economics. So whatever your weak area is, or whatever area you have no idea about, start with that subject. Complete at least a little bit of that area in the first month. And then after the end of the month, start preparing for the current affairs as well. What it will do is it will give you an edge, and it will allow you to correlate things, because there is no such thing as current affairs or static portion separately. Like people do ask that what is the weightage of current affairs? There is no weightage for anything. Nowadays, be it in prelims or be it in mains, these two have been linked like anything. There are 3 statements. One might be static and 2 might be current affairs. Similarly, when we talk about mains, the questions are asked from current affairs, but it has a large portion of static portion to it. So kindly do not be in the notion that I need to focus more on current affairs and less on general studies, or more on general studies and less on current affairs. These go hand in hand, just like the 2 wheels of a cart. This is about the current affairs. Now, one more thing which I would like to mention is about the mock tests. Please try and give mock tests right from November. People, what they do is they give mocks just 2 months before the prelims. Like the prelims is in October, and many people still haven't given a single mock yet. This is not really advisable, because mocks is not there to tell you what your score is. It is there to tell you how much are you scoring and how to improve upon that. So if you just give mocks a month before, there is no time to improve. If you start giving mocks in November or December, and don't worry whether you have completed the syllabus or not, because as it is in the prelims, when you appear for the paper, around 30% of the questions might be such you might not have even heard of. It is as good as not completing the syllabus. At least give mocks, get to know even the areas which you have covered it correctly or not, and then you build upon that. When you revise, you know what areas to focus upon. Lastly, I would like to mention about a little of options. Although sir did not tell me to focus on options, I would like to say one thing, that almost everybody knows the importance of optionals in the mains process. But what they forget is that everybody is trying to have an edge in the optionals, but mostly none is trying to focus on the essay writing or the GS papers. I'll just mention a few things. Essay writing, GS 1, 2, 3, 4. These five papers are some things which somebody might be having an edge on something or the other. But essay and GS4, which is ethics, these are the areas wherein you can get maximum rewards by minimum efforts. I'll tell you why. Essay writing has no particular syllabus, and whatever you have read is rather the syllabus of essay writing. So the only edge which one can have in essay writing is the flair of writing, which you can develop by time. And second, how many dimensions you're adding to it. Now, since you have already read so many things you have read history, you have read polity, you have read geography, you have read economics, you have read science, you have read technology, whatnot. These are the dimensions which you have to cover in essay writing. So focus on essay writing. Please practice few essays before going to the exam. Do not just sit directly go to the exam and write essays, because these are the areas wherein you might get higher marks. Similarly, ethics. Now, what people say normally is that ethics is something I'm not really sure of, because like there's just one or two standard books. I'll just read that and go for the exam. But ethics is the area wherein if you just read for 10 or 12 days at one go, revise it 2 or 3 times, it will give you wonderful results. It is more about how you write the answer in the ethics. So please focus on the additional areas along with options as well, like the essay and ethics. One more thing is that around note making, which I mentioned, I told that I had gathered some notes which were not readily available in the market. Like Jatin told that there are some areas like social issues, disaster management, governance, which are not readily available in the market. Those are the brownie point areas, because people do not have it in the market to spoon feed them. If you capitalize on that, those areas will give you better marks. So what I did was there are some common areas like women empowerment, like education, like economy, like environment. Make some quotations, make some statistics, a PDF or a document on that. You can use that in your essay writing. You can use that in your GS 1, 2, 3, and even in your GS 4. This will actually give you, some masala kind of flavor in the answer, which will add some tint to the marks. And my optional is a commerce. This is quite obscure normally. What just thing is that people go say that what option should I choose? The first preference should be what are you good at, because option is something which is your asset. It should save time and give you more marks. So just choose an option which is your asset, which does not become a liability. So that was for me. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I think this is something which all of us should understand, that he has a great command in the subject of commerce, and he has done cost benefit analysis in a very fine fashion. And this you can see the entire process in the prelims, the mains, and interview, everywhere he has done this thing in a very masterful manner. Now, the point that we need to actually understand is that we should have a trajectory of learning. The roadmap, the idea of the roadmap is to have a trajectory, start something, achieve that target, then move to the next target, and then to bigger target. And if you have a graded journey in this entire process, then you will be in a position to integrate this entire theme. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to invite our student, Namgyal Angmo, who scored rank 323. She was our GSI student as well as economics optional student at Rao's IAS Study Circle. And it actually is a great pride, because she is now connecting from a remote area, from the Leh, and she's actually in a village right now. But she has taken out time, and she's going to talk about how to integrate. You have got the simulation in terms of how to start preparing, how to understand. You have understood the importance of core. Now, the idea is the examination itself will require you to connect a lot of points, whether you talk about prelims, mains, and optional. So this is where Angmo is going to talk about more. Angmo, handing over to you. Please take it over.
Thank you, sir, and hello, everyone. Thank you for taking your time out to come and listen to all of us. I'm pretty sure it'll be really beneficial for all of you, and in terms of setting yourself apart in terms of the preparation. So as sir mentioned, I took the GS integrated course at Rao's. So there was a prelims and mains integrated course. So wherein you start by building up your knowledge, and in case you are successful in the preliminary examination, then they guide you throughout the mains process. And again, after the mains with the interviews. So it's a very comprehensive program that I attended. It was very helpful for me in preparing for this exam. In terms of integrated approach to prelims and mains, like the other participants have mentioned, Jatin has mentioned, Raunak has mentioned, the approach when we begin doesn't have to be one that is focused either on prelims or mains. You start by building up a foundation, right? And that's what I did. Apart from my classes at Rao's, of course, I read all the basic books, because it was a very sort of a huge transition for me, because I just left my job and I had moved to prepare for UPSC. So it was like starting from scratch. Although I did, of course, we all study all these concepts in school, but it was still sort of a new beginning. And I did not at this point think about prelims or mains. It was just about looking at the syllabus, looking at the various topic areas, and studying the basic text, familiarizing myself with all these concepts, right? It's nothing new, but when you're preparing for UPSC and you're reading these texts, you look at it in a different light. You have all, I had all some years of experience behind me, some hindsight. So it was not as if I was a school student studying textbooks. I was looking at it from the perspective of a UPSC aspirant, because these are the things that a civil servant has to know. I mean, it's a given. So the basic texts, of course, and as the others have also mentioned, in terms of say mock tests, whether it is for prelims or for mains, it has to start from the beginning. I had joined Rao's preliminary test series. I think it started in October or November. I had started my course at Rao's, I think, in August. And just within a few months of that, the preliminary test series started. And that was really helpful because it helps you track yourself. As you take more and more mock tests, your weak points are, right? This has been mentioned already. You see how well you're managing the time. You see the new areas that maybe you've missed out on when you were studying the basic textbooks. So mock tests are really helpful in that sense. And I was able to gauge, because when I started out, I was getting very low marks, to be honest. It was not something to be proud of, but then that doesn't matter because it's all part of the learning process. I was getting somewhere around 60s or 70s in the initial mock tests, but it was a setback. But then you learn from that setback, you do more mock tests, you study more, you study in a better way, you talk to your teachers, and that helps. And you can actually see your progress through these mock tests. And one other thing for mains, answer writing is many aspirants make this mistake that they shift to the mains mode only after prelims, and that's a big mistake. Because prelims, it's not UPSC Civil Service exams, it's not just the preliminary exam. The prelims are just a gateway for you to write the mains and then the interview, right? So you have to remember, you have to know how to write efficient answers, know all of these tricks and how to, for example, maybe write point wise. Even if you're not writing point wise answers, economize on your time, economize on how well you're putting your points forward. So answer writing is something that has to be begun way before the prelims. And maybe before prelims, yes, as most of us do, 2-3 months before the prelims, you have to ramp up on the mock tests for the prelims and revising intensively for the preliminary exam. And then post the prelims, you can begin right away for your mains, enrolling in test series. So the approach is integrated in the sense that you are studying, you are looking at all 360-degree view of all the concepts that you're studying, right? Not just based on, okay, whether do I have to remember this fact about this report? No, when you're studying it in the beginning, try to look at all aspects. Yes, for the prelims, it is more fact-based, it's factual. You just have to have an idea. You can use common sense to eliminate a lot of answers. These tricks come with doing a lot of mock tests for the prelims. But then an integrative way to study all of these things would be not just looking at it from the prelims lens or mains lens. Of course, when you come to the main stage, then with the mains test series, it has to be different. You have to have analytical skills. You have to know how to analyze different issues, communicate to the examiner all that you have learned. You might know everything that is to know about a particular concept, a particular report, an act, an issue that is of current relevance. But if you're not able to effectively communicate that to the examiner, it's no use. So that's where answer writing, knowing your areas of strength, knowing your areas of weakness is important. When I started out with my answer writing, especially for the GS papers, my initial tests, again, I did very badly because I was writing answers from the point of view of, say, a research student, because I'm from a humanities background. I did economics and I've done research papers. So I had that sort of approach. I was writing out, long drawn out answers, not getting to the point immediately. taking up a lot of space, taking up a lot of time. So that tends to annoy the person who's going through your answer script. So I learned that with this exam, it's not about, how much you're writing or what kind of vocabulary you're using, especially for the GS papers. It's about what are the dimensions that you know of in this concept. How, how economically can you sum up all that is there about that particular issue? And for example, it could be a policy recommendation, or it could be your opinion on a certain issue. So how can you sum up and answer beautifully in a conclusion, with a forward-looking conclusion, say, for example. So these are the important things that you get to know with a mock test series for mains. And that is also important because all of us, when we are preparing for the exam, we tend to think that, okay, let's just focus on the prelims. That's all that we need to clear, right? No, but then we tend to sort of overlook the fact that answer writing, if we do not do enough of that beforehand, there's no point in clearing the prelims, because at the end of it, your entire cumulative marking and the ranking and everything that depends on your selection depends on your overall marks in mains and the interview. So it has to be a comprehensive approach. You have to look at all aspects of the issues that you're studying, ramp up your prelims focused preparation before, say 2 or 3 months before the prelims, and then for the mains after the prelims. So don't have a narrow lens on either preliminary exam or a mains exam. And in terms of optional, definitely you have to have covered everything that is to be covered in your optional before the preliminary exam, because honestly, there's no time after the prelims to start anew with, going through all the components of the optional syllabus. I've seen many candidates make this mistake that they're not even 100% sure about the optional subject that they want to choose before they sit for the prelims. And it's a no-brainer. I mean, there's no point doing that, because optionals, as we talked about earlier, it forms a big chunk of our mains entire cumulative marking. So it's important to have a good idea about your optional. Spend a good amount of time figuring out your optional. For people who have had the academic background or a particular inclination towards a particular subject, it's easy. But in case you don't think that, for example, the course that you graduated in, you don't want to take up that particular subject, or it is not available as an optional, then you have to spend a good amount of time looking through the syllabus of each of the optional subjects. See what piques your interest the most. See what studying which of them will sustain you, because that is something that you're going to study throughout the year. That's something that you're going to spend a lot of time with. So what do you feel the most invested in? What do you think will pique your interest the most? And it could be based on talking to your seniors or peers or teachers, but the ultimate decision about your optional has to be from you. A lot of times candidates, they tend to follow the trend that, say this particular subject A has tended to perform really well in the past year, right? Or most of these toppers have taken this optional, so let's just, why not just take this? Why spend a lot of time? Why waste a lot of time thinking about it? But then that was their decision. Everyone is different. We have different interests. We have different strengths, weaknesses. So look at the syllabus, each of the components of the syllabus, study them. Look at, of course, I mean, it makes sense to look at the material available for it. And so the ultimate decision has to be based on your individual preference and not past trends, and not on what your friend is opting for, not on what your senior opted for. So I think the choice of optional is an important issue. I had economics as an optional. It was a natural choice for me because I've done my post-graduation in economics as well. And I was also preparing alongside for the Indian Economic Service. And for that, I also joined Rao's economics course. And it was helpful both in terms of economic service and this exam. And I had joined it way back when I just started my GS integrated course, just 2-3 months after that. So finalizing that studying my optional well, getting that out of the way was very helpful in terms of me being able to devote the needed time in the other GS core areas. So I think that pretty much sums up my experience of trying to achieve a comprehensive approach towards preparing for the preliminary exam and the mains exam. I think, sir, that's it. So if you have any questions, I would be happy to take them later. Thank you.
Thank you, Namgyal. We will definitely allow everyone to ask questions in the last part of the session. And I can actually, the kind of experience that you all have shared, Jatin has shared, Raunak has shared, you have shared. So I can remember one thing, that woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep and miles to go before I sleep. And this is what that all of us should do, and understand how you basically can perform better. People face problems, people face struggles, but they have the right set of strategy. Then over a period of time, they will definitely go and achieve this target. So thank you, Namgyal. Thank you for sharing all this. We are really very proud of you, proud of your achievements. And we believe that you will do very well in your career service as well. Thank you, Namgyal. Now, the next person whom I'm going to invite for the session, although we are living in the era of social distancing, this online hybrid program is also designed for social distancing so that you can study from the comfort of home. At the same time, the person is not our student. The person has never subscribed to any course that we have done, but has utilized some of the tools that we have actually created. These tools are DNS, that is Daily News Simplified. He has used our prelims and mains compass. He has utilized our focus magazine, and he is here with us. And he shared his story. He reached out to us and told us that, sir, I have been following you for quite a significant period of time, and now I've achieved this success. So I'm not claiming that he is our student in that sense, but he can definitely share his experience about current affairs. Ladies and gentlemen, please try to understand what Himanshu Gupta is trying to say. He scored rank 27. He's again an engineer with philosophical background. He took philosophy as an optional, and he can give you the true philosophy of clearing the examination. Himanshu, can you please come and join us?
Hello all, thank you for the invitation, and I'm really delighted to listen to the previous speakers as well. And I'm here to talk about the current affairs strategy. Before that, I would like to appreciate the previous speakers who have talked about integrated approach, who have talked about how to not differentiate between the prelims and the mains thing, or the static and the current things. So you need to have some or the other integrated approach as well. But I have been asked to talk about current affairs particularly here. So I would like to break it up into three aspects. One is the current affairs for prelims, for mains, and the interview stage. So for prelim stage, I would say the first thing is you should be very intensive in this. By intensive, I mean having a very vast width as well as depth. So you should be able to cover many things, many topics comprehensively, and try to go a bit deep into it just out of curiosity, you can say. So that all helps. So what I did in my current affairs was spreading the entire preparation throughout the course of the year. It was not one single, like 2 months, you take 2 months and then try to read all the compilations in one go. But I tried to spread it out into daily current affairs, the monthly revision, and the final yearly compilations that Rao's Compass magazines has. So in the daily current affairs, I read the newspaper, but along with that, the most important complement was the daily news analysis that the DNS simplified that comes from Rao's IAS, and I used to watch that quite religiously for around 1.5 years. It was with me for every morning. It was the first thing that I used to watch was this Rao's DNS videos. So that was really helpful. And for monthly, the Focus magazine was good enough. But for monthly, I would say the Focus magazine should be read in a very superficial manner. If you have the daily news with you, If you have daily news with you always, you can anyway revise those stuff from the daily stuff. So monthly revision is just for your sense of revision only, you can say. So Focus magazine I used to read just once or twice, just for highlighting and underlining them. And in the later stage, when the prelims comes nearby, so around 2 months back or 3 months back, when the prelims Compass magazine came from Rao's IAS, that was a good way to complete all the revisions at one go. So that was a really good thing. For prelims, again, I would say that if there are a plethora of resources available right now, so there are so many online resources, so many compilations and all, and every compilation you go and you will see that there is something or the other new that is there in every compilation. So I would strongly suggest not to go behind all these things. Please focus on one or the other compilations. Even if you want to go beyond for your sense of satisfaction, you can just take out that other compilation and just see the index, what all is different and what all you can extract out of them. Just that's it. Do not go beyond. Take one material as your base material. I took the Rao's Compass magazine as my base material and revised that multiple times. And over and above that, if you feel that you are lacking in some or the other subject or topic, you can just superficially glance through the index of other compilations just to have an idea if you are missing something out or not. For mains, I would say, rather than intensive approach, here you require an extensive approach. By extensive, I mean to say, if you see the official notification of the UPSC, the first line after the mains examination, it's written intellectual traits and depth of understanding rather than mere collection of information. It's written in the official notification itself. So you should have that depth of understanding. For that depth, you should come out with interlinkages of each and every subject. One subject cannot be studied in a silos. You should be able to interlink many aspects into one single framework. I think the mains Compass magazine had that SPICE approach: social, political, institution, etc. You can have a stakeholder based approach. Let's say a topic is about bank merger. Don't just start writing advantage, disadvantages. Start thinking in terms of stakeholders. Who are the stakeholders involved? Banks are involved, the government is involved, the economy is involved, and then you can try thinking on that aspects. So that helps. Let's say, let me take another example. Let's say some institution is there, police, judiciary, any institution is there. I made a framework of mine that was structural issues, procedural issues, and attitudinal issues. Within that framework, you can put in each and every point that whatever you encounter regarding that particular context. But start thinking in frameworks, start thinking in some structures. It helps in, firstly, the depth of understanding, as I said, the comprehensivity, and also gives you a structure in the mains answer writing as well. You don't just write random points, you write some structured points. So that helps in mains. And unlike prelims, you do not need to see multiple resources and just glance through things. You actually need to have very limited resources, brainstorm over them where they can be utilized. So even 1 or 2 points can be utilized in many aspects. I had one example, I can share it with you. I think I utilized it in 2 or 3 areas. This is an example of a village where I encountered this news in a newspaper itself. So it is a Telia village in Jharkhand, and there is an NGO which is working there. The NGO's name is Pradhan, and there is another CSR foundation is also there. So Ford Foundation was there, who utilized its CSR funds, and they empowered a women self-help group there to transform the entire village. Now you can see so many things are there which can be utilized in so many topics if you start brainstorming over them. You can write it in rural development, women empowerment, SHGs, NGOs, CSR, even GS4, you can utilize that thing. See, one single point, one single case study can be utilized in so many aspects. For current affairs in mains, I can also say that let's say a static question is there. Let's say role of governor. You can just start your answers or give your introductions based on the current affairs. Let's say the recent Rajasthan crisis has highlighted the issue or role of the governor. Here you are utilizing your current affairs knowledge, maybe prelims, maybe mains, but you are utilizing those stuff in your mains answer writing and accommodating those stuff within that thing. So please try and build your thought process such that you are able to, you are always in an extractive mode, I say. By extractive, I mean, whenever you are reading something up, let's say any editorial article, any newspaper or any compilation also, try to extract information and try to brainstorm over it where you can utilize that thing and apply that thing. Anyway, in mains, it is very quite improbable that you will get the exact same question that you had studied. You will always have to apply your knowledge. So that comes up when you exercise that thing. For interview stage, for current affairs for interview stage, again, I would say go back to the official notification itself. It says intelligent interest in the current events of international national importance and those kind of stuff. So you should have a good intelligent interest. Now that intelligent interest, if you try to break that up, it actually means you should have some kind of curiosity over what is going on around you. So building up your opinions, read editorials as much as possible, read opinion op-eds, so that you are able to build your opinions on each and every issue. And you can even try reading 2 or more newspapers during the interview stage, so that you get a balanced opinion on things. Also focus on your background. Let's say if you are an engineering background, or if you are a person from economics background or any industry, you can try and read the current affairs related to that, the new developments, the recent discoveries that have happened, so that you know about those things, and if at all a question is asked, you can answer that very effectively using current affairs. So I think that is all for the current affairs aspect. I think I tried to cover up each and everything, and if there are questions, I would be happy to answer. Thank you.
In this era of Arjun's, Eklavs are also celebrated, and that is what is manifested in this process, where Himanshu Gupta has shared his experience about how well he has done in this entire process by utilizing the tools in the right fashion. We are very thankful to Himanshu for bringing this out so that people get the right amount of guidance as well. There are a lot of resources available, but resources need to be curated. Resources have to be justified in the format. Only then they will make much of a sense. The next speaker is actually one of the most motivating speakers for me as well. I really have learned so many great things from her. She's a role model for me, and I think every one of you will learn. This is Sanjita Mohapatra. There are a few things that I would like to say. That failures are something which are part of everyone's life. But how you handle those failures is something which will define what kind of a person you are, what kind of a character you are, or what kind of a success you can actually breed. That is what we can learn from her perseverance. This year she has scored rank 10. This was her 5th attempt, and things have never been easy for her. The way she has moved from one point to another, this defines the kind of struggle she has gone through, and this shows that what kind of a civil servant she will be there. You can go through her session on YouTube. She has mentioned a very clear fact that had she got a coaching at the right point of time, right guidance, it would have saved 2-3 attempts or 2-3 years of her life. And that is what the important aspect is in terms of right guidance. So handing over to you, Sanjita, please take it over, unmute yourself and enlighten everyone.
Hello everyone. I hope so I am audible. Thank you, Raus IAS for inviting me over here and giving me an opportunity to interact with such a large audience. I would take this opportunity to congratulate Jatin, Raunak, Himanshu, Namgyal. We all are meeting for the first time. See you at the academy soon. And all the other aspirants, as I said, it was my 5th attempt. I never cleared my prelims for last 3 times. The 4th time I couldn't clear my mains. And the 5th attempt, I'm here in front of all of you. So how do you handle failures in all these examinations? We all know UPSC is a very long journey, very grueling journey, I would say. You give a prelims, you wait for 2 months, you give a mains, you wait for 2 months. So that waiting period is so tough on all of us. What I feel, when you have a failure, it's very okay to feel demotivated, to feel sad, to feel defeated. You should feel it. You are human after all. So feel that emotions. You shouldn't feel that I shouldn't feel like that. I have heard in one of the interviews Jatin gave that he was not even wanting to give this attempt. His parents literally took him to the examinations hall. That is how grueling this exam at some point of time becomes on our mental health. So it's okay, it's fine to feel bad, but you should feel bad for a day or two. You have to rise up again. Sir has said that is one thing I always feel. When I felt back and didn't know what to do, I always used to look back and think, what was the reason that I chose a settled career, a married life, to run after something which has become my childhood dream since I was a kid? Why do I want to get into the services? If your motivation is power, money, prestige, these things are so transient, and you can get in so many other services. They'll move away. They'll not motivate you after a certain point of time. But if your inspiration, your motivation is a very large scale, this is what will motivate you to again rise up and do the work. After the interviews, where my interviews was on the last date, it was on April 3rd. So on April 3rd, we had the interview, but it got delayed. I was very heartbroken because I had everything planned out that I'll have a relaxing time. So that was a kind of mental stress for me. So I thought, I did not read for 15 straight days. I did nothing. I laid around. I did not open a newspaper. I did nothing. But then when I started reading the newspapers, I saw those migrants, the pathetic conditions they were going through, and here I was having a plush life, having food to eat, cooking food and posting on social media. See the stark difference. That again motivated me back. That I have studied so much. What is the best way I can utilize my knowledge to help all these people? This is the best platform for me, and I have been striving to do that. So why do I leave it right now? So that should motivate you every single day, and you should always think that this is how I'll stay motivated and I'll do something. Second is, there are how to handle some interim success. I have seen many of my friends, they'll get through prelims and wow, we did it, and 10-15 days koi padhai nahi. So that is okay. I again said, we are humans. Rejoice for a day, pat yourself that finally you crossed one hurdle. That should be like a booster to you. It should act as a booster. Okay, yes, I did this. Because when you fail, I have been a topper throughout my life, but every time I used to fail in UPSC, it was so demotivating. I would think, I'm not cut out for UPSC. Maybe I shouldn't pursue it anymore. That feeling sinks in them sometimes, that UPSC ke liye nahi bani. But this success will give you the boost. I got through my state services in 2017. I scored a good rank there. So that helped me to think that, chalo, I can do UPSC as well. So that was my motivating factor. So enjoy the success, but remember, as Jatin, Raunak, everyone has pointed out, consistency is the key. You cannot miss out for a long time by not studying and keep on rejoicing. So start your preparation as soon as you can. And you see, the process is a one long journey of a year. So how do you remain focused throughout the process? There are times you will feel ki ab nahi ho raha hai. Your friends are getting married, they are going to vacations, clicking pictures, putting on Instagram, Facebook. It's so demotivating, na? So switch off your Facebook for some time. You don't need to do that. You need to take out time from social media as much as you can. I don't say you cut off, because I had a very good set of friends and I needed to stay connected to them to stay afloat. I used to talk to them every single day. I used to hang out on every weekends. Have fun. Don't shut yourself out. You don't have to do that. But unnecessary thing, don't do that. Means you take a break, YouTube make video we started, and that 10 minutes ka break, when it turned into 1.5 hours, pata hi nahi chala. So don't do that. My habit was, every chapter I would finish, every syllabus I would finish, I used to take a short nap of 10 minutes. That's a habit I have. So that used to rejuvenate me. So I'll take a nap. So do anything you like. Listen to music, listen to a song, do something which will rejuvenate you, and play games. I like running a lot. I work out at times. So do something which will keep you engaged. So don't make yourself a band kamra in Delhi, there's no window, and 9 to 9 I sit inside and just keep studying. So don't do that. Keep yourself connected and stay happy. The process should be enjoyable. It should not be mere slogging. Ki bhai jabardasti padhna hai. Don't do that. I was a working professional for 5 years. So what are the problems working professionals face is time management and stress management. I was in a PSU, and there's no point anymore to say that PSUs mein kaam kam hai, there's less job in PSUs. Everywhere the work pressure is this as well as time. For that, you need patience, consistency, and a very fixed schedule. Maintain a schedule and stick to your schedule. My aim was Sunday ko I used to revise and have a schedule for the whole week. As Raunak was saying, I used to study 2 subjects per day, or there was a fixed schedule. I'll read history with polity or something like that, not monotonous. I used to come back at 6 from office, 1 ghanta I would take rest, 7 o'clock to 11 o'clock, a fixed schedule of mine. Raat ko end of the day is to be current affairs from some specific online sites and daily quiz solving, which will revise. So this is a very, every single day you have to keep on working. My 5 years ka ye main aisa nahi, every single day I read. There were times I couldn't read. But next moment you get, try to cover it up. Monthly एक target होना चाहिए, weekly एक target होना चाहिए, and every day try to cover that target. Don't leave behind. And there many times I am asked if I could have taken less time to clear this exam. Yes, obviously I could have. The first attempt I gave was way back in 2010. तब हम पार्लर जाते थे जीमेल और जीटॉक में बात करने. I did not have internet back at home, so net was not widely available, so I didn't even know UPSC क्या होता है, but I knew I wanted to be a collector. So that was the naiveness, you can say, I had. So it took a lot of time for me to understand the gravity of the exam, what it is, how to prepare. Now you have such wide variety of sources. We have such toppers who give on such detailed description. They have blogs. Read all of them. Concise your resources. As all of the toppers I was hearing, they say it very correctly. These people do not read different books. They read the same books differently. We also all have read the same NCRT, the same Lakshmikant, the same current affairs. So how do you do it differently? Concise, revise. Everyone has talked about that. Less resources and keep on revising as much as you can. And I hope so. All the best. You can always reach out to all of us and we'll help you out in any ways possible. Stay motivated and get into the services. It will be a wonderful journey for you ahead. Thank you. Thank you so much.
I can only recall when things go wrong, as they sometimes will, when the roads you are trudging seems all uphill, when the funds are low and debts are high and you want to smile but you have to shy. और इसको मैं complete करूँगा कि मेहनत करने वालों की हार नहीं होती. And that is what the important message is. You have learned about the entire process. This entire process has actually given you a lot of ideas about how to prepare yourself in terms of orientation, how to handle core subjects, how to actually handle the integrated approach, current affairs, and ultimately Sanjita has very well explained how to actually keep yourself motivated. The motivation, the desire basically comes from inside, and that comes with noble goals. So you should have right set of goals and you pursue that thing on a consistent basis or a long period of time, you will definitely achieve success. Now, what we want to actually now discuss is what can be done in terms of the approach that we can actually handle this examination in a better fashion. Now, whenever we try to discuss about approach, this is something that we need to understand, that whenever we try and start for the examination, there has to be stages. There are to be stages in the form which can actually help you in understanding where I stand right now, where I need to reach, where I need to move further. And this is what the idea is that we are going to talk about this particular stage. But before that, let me take an example from our life. Now, you must have used some kind of a navigation system at some point of time in your life, and you must have used it for traveling from, say, point A to point B. Now, whenever you use this kind of a tool from moving from point A to point B, there are multiple ways to do it. Suppose this is where you are, and somewhere this is where your aspiration is. Now, if you're moving from point A to B, there can be a system, that navigation system tells you that you move in this particular direction and you will reach. This is one way. This is the guidance system. Now, there can be another mechanism where this person moves from A to X, invests some time here, moves around, then this person moves from X to Y, moves around again, invests some time, ultimately moves to the third point, Z, invests some time here, and ultimately reach to this destination. So we can talk about this particular thing, that this person is also successful. Of course, he has achieved his goal, but how much of our time, how much of effort? We have limited amount of time, we have limited amount of resources, and we need to invest in the right direction so that our journey is complete and we can participate in terms of our goal, the motivation. And that is where the role is in terms of guidance. Now, when we talk about Rao's IAS, it is much similar to this navigation system or guidance. And the interesting aspect of the guidance is whenever you start from point A to B, it continuously updates you about the kind of challenges that you can do, what kind of a timeline you will take. And moreover, if you're trying to enter into a city, the system will tell you how to take a bypass and not to get troubled by this entire thing. And this is where the system of navigation, the system of guidance comes into picture. Now, many of you must have heard about Abhimanyu, isn't it? Abhimanyu, the famous character from Mahabharata, he knew how to enter into Chakravyuh, but he did not know how to get out of that. And what has happened with them? He actually became a martyr in that sense. Now, we can learn from Abhimanyu. This examination is a little ruthless in its nature, and it has made so many Abhimanyus in this entire process. But if you have the right set of guidance, if you have right set of ideas, this kind of a bypass mechanism where you do not waste your time and effort, you utilize your resources in the best possible manner, then things become much more easy. Now, one reliable source or guidance is actually the key to acquire success. So the point is, you should get reliable guidance. You should have a partner which can actually do this journey with you in the right frame of mind. Now, for this particular purpose, I will actually recommend, this is a recommendation from Rao's IAS, about how this entire process should unfold for anyone. Now, whenever we talk about this entire journey, this actually should be divided into stages. The first stage is the foundation itself. When we talk about foundation, the idea is to first understand the rules of the game. You are worried about essay, you are worried about ethics, you are worried about how to write more answers. We get a lot of requests on a daily basis that give one mains answer writing practice every day. You've just started. Come on, please try to understand that you have to understand the nature of the exam first. If you understand the nature of the examination, the rest of the things will automatically become much more easy. Right now, do not waste your time on essay. Focus on the nature of examination and how to do it. UPSC has already facilitated that. Focus on the syllabus, some previous year questions, so that you understand what is required. And this is our approach. This is Rao's IAS approach to understand the foundation, that this is where you start and go through that. Then, of course, whenever you try to build something big, focus on your core subjects. Focus on the polity, economy, geography, history. You can build great castles if you have right set of foundations. And for this purpose, what you can do, you should study NCRTs and standard reference books. Many of the toppers have already highlighted. There are so many resources already available. There are so many lists already available. Use this reference material and NCRTs to develop concepts. Even Rao's IAS blue workbooks are based entirely on these standard NCRTs along with the standard reference books. And in the foundation stage, we try to stay rooted to them. We teach them through NCRTs and standard material that is prepared by Rao's IAS teachers, so that their focus on core subjects is perfect. Do not worry about teach the test right now. Go for the right steps at this point of time. Next important aspect is to read newspapers smartly. Right now, we do not want you to analyze the situation between India and Pakistan, India and China. First, let's try to understand how to cull out information, get the right set of information, right piece of information. Once you will understand that this is something which is important, which again is through syllabus mapping only. Then you will understand how UPSC will make questions. And over a period of time, there's always a past that we carry. That once we start exposing ourselves in the right set of information, then this thing will become much more easy. Also important here in the integrated approach is to select the optional subject. Now, a lot of people start preparing for the examination and they do not have any idea. They think that after I prepare for prelims, I will start for optional. This is a strategy tailor made for doom. Please do not fall for this trap. You should have your optional. If you have already guidance or education, the graduation or post graduation, adopt it or choose your optional very wisely. But choose your optional that convinces you. If it is not convincing you, then this is not the optional that you should take. Now, moving further, once you have done the foundation part, the next aspect is very important. This is where the knowledge will start sinking in. Once you have done foundation, it means core is done. Now we are going for knowledge. And once we have knowledge, what we are trying to do, we are trying to organize knowledge by interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary approach. Now, if you try to define the syllabus of UPSC, there are 7 broad category of subjects. These are polity and governance, economic and social development, social issues and justice. We can talk about science and technology, international relations and internal security. And we can also talk about other things like history, art, and culture. Now, these are some of the subjects. But what is important is one particular topic may touch upon multiple things. When you talk about environment and economy, they may touch upon something you are doing for the economy may go antagonistic for environment, and it will have social implication as well. This is where organizing the knowledge in the right bracket is very important. Some of the toppers have already mentioned about the SPICE approach, which actually is a one wonderful indicator of organizing knowledge, where S is nothing but social aspect or social dimension. P is political. When you talk about I, it has 2 meaning. It is institutional or India centric. When you talk about C, it is culture. And when we talk about E, it is environment or economy. So you can see that this kind of approach will help you in integrating the current affairs as well with this multidisciplinary approach. How? You will use current affairs, put them in these packets, and you will understand that one news will touch upon other as well. Last but not the least, in this case, once you are going through the process of knowledge building, this again will take around 2 to 3 months. And then this is where the answer writing or attempting multiple choice questions come into picture. In the foundation stage, we are not focusing on the test immediately. But in the knowledge building, once we have done the core subjects, we have highlighted about the other aspects. Now we are focusing on answer writing. Next, an important aspect is, of course, complete the syllabus of GS and optional subject before prelims. Now, this is something which becomes very difficult for most of us to do. Now, in the foundation stage, we should invest around 2 to 3 months. Again, in the knowledge base, again 2 to 3 months. And this is the time where we finish the optional as well as the GS syllabus. If we do it, then the next stage becomes much more easy, much more systematic in nature. And if we do not do it, then there will be problems which would be hard to manage. So now let's look at the next stage. This stage is something where you will reach when you start hitting the month of January and February. This is the time we need to do what? We need to consolidate. We need to revise and need to keep testing. And suppose I'm hitting that stage in the month of February, the exam is in the month of June or July. So this is what? 4 to 5 months before the prelims. And this is where we need to actually consolidate everything, keep testing and revising. Mind it, the important aspect is now we need to make changes in our strategy. And when we say strategy, as Himanshu has already highlighted, for prelims, we need to go much more intensive in nature. Focus on prelims 2 and 3 months before the prelims, attempt test from the standard reference sources. Prelim test series will help you in multiple things. It will help you in revision. It will give you an opportunity to cover static as well as the current aspect. Focus on mains after prelims. Remember one thing, that when we were building the knowledge base, we have done or completed the mains aspect in terms of optional as well as GS. So in this phase, we will not be focusing much on the mains aspect. We will wait for the prelims to get over and then decide for the mains. Mains test series and answer writing will come into handy, and revision for GS and optional. Once we are done with prelims, there is no need to waste your time. You know how well you performed. The cutoffs are in 90s, late 90s and early hundreds. This is what normally is. If you're scoring 120 marks, rest assured you're going to write mains. Please do not waste your time. Go further, go for interview guidance after mains program, update your current affairs on a regular basis, and this is the entire journey that we should follow. Now, this is the system that Rao's IAS follows in terms of foundation, then knowledge gathering, and ultimately revision, testing, and consolidation. This is where the entire process is laid out. If you follow this approach, if you set the right set of milestones, this will definitely yield success for you. And this is a time tested mechanism which actually has been vouched by toppers like Jatin, that this is vouched by toppers like Namgyal, and you can see the impact that we can highlight. So this is where it actually comes to an end in terms of this entire session. Now we are going to open the session for question and answer. Now, all those who want to ask some questions can actually raise the hands and we can take up questions. I will unmute one of them and then let them speak their question. And ultimately, this is how we are going to interact with toppers. So use your participant gallery, raise your hands. I will give you opportunity to unmute yourself. And this is how you can ask question. You can clearly mention the question if you have a specific person in mind. Okay. So please be very nice, precise in your question. I will give you one opportunity. Once you have asked your question, then mute yourself and get this opportunity to someone else. Okay. Thank you, Jatin. Next person, Mr. Omkar Shinde. Please unmute yourself and ask your question. Omkar Shinde. Omkar, can you hear me? Can you unmute yourself?
Yes,
Left-hand
sir,
side bottom, please speak your question.
Yes, thank you, sir. My question is Mohapatra ma'am. Ma'am, coaching important है UPSC के लिए.
Can you repeat your question again?
Coaching important है UPSC के लिए. Coaching.
हेलो ओमकार, इफ आई आंसर टू योर, मैंने कोचिंग नहीं ली थी तो मैं आई कुड क्रैक इट और मैं आपके सामने बैठी हूँ. सो इट्स नॉट इम्पोर्टेंट. मेरे सबके अपने अपने रीजंस होते हैं कोचिंग ज्वाइन नहीं ज्वाइन करने के. मेरी रीजन यही थी कि आई कुडंट अफोर्ड इट देन. मेरे पास तब इतना फाइनेंशियल स्टेबिलिटी नहीं था कि मैं कोचिंग ज्वाइन करके ये कर सकूं. इफ यू आर फाइनेंशियली स्टेबल, आपके पास उतने पैसे हैं कि आप इन्वेस्ट कर सको, सो यू कैन गो फॉर इट, बिकॉज वो आपको एक बहुत एक स्ट्रैटेजी दे देता है, एक डिफाइंड चीज दे देता है बना बनाया. बिकॉज द कोचिंग इंस्टीट्यूशंस आर वेरी बिग. वो आपको काफी कुछ, उनके बहुत सारे बैकएंड में बहुत सारे लोग होते हैं काम करने के लिए, तो आपको रेडीमेड मटेरियल मिलता है. बट अगेन आई वुड ऑल्सो से, अगर नहीं है आपके पास, यू डोंट वांट टू ज्वाइन और आप बहुत दूर रहते हैं, काम करते हैं, यू कैन नॉट लीव. इंटरनेट में आजकल बहुत सुविधाएं अवेलेबल है. कंसाइज करिए अपना रिसोर्सेज, 4-5 साइट में घूमते मत रहिए, 1-2 डिसाइड करिए, उसी को फॉलो करिए और उसी के साथ स्टिक रहिए. डोंट मूव अराउंड.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sanjita. I'm giving opportunity to Bhavna. Bhavna, please unmute yourself and ask your query.
Hi, sir. Am I audible?
Yes. Go ahead.
Sir, considering that there are only 80 days between prelims and mains for 2021, so ideally, what should be the strategy for us? So, how should we prepare? How should we plan?
Okay, this query is for whom?
Jatin, sir.
Jatin, sir.
So I agree it's a little less, and the recent trend has been that the number of days has been decreasing. So try and complete now. If you are appearing for this prelims, now don't focus on your mains because there isn't much time. So right now you should go on full prelims mode, practice and revise whatever you're doing. But you'll have to do it smartly. 80 days is not so less. There is a significant amount of time, and I'm sure you've already covered quite a bit of your means. So then focus on whatever you've done. Try and go syllabus wise, like I had mentioned, something on every topic. But again, the point here is don't go after too many sources, because again, you won't be able to do too much in the limited 80 days. Revise whatever you've done and try and fill in the gaps and get some try and improve the quality of your answers. That will help.
Sir, I'm preparing for 2021.
Okay, so then you have plenty of time. You can prepare. It has been mentioned that when you are preparing, you have to follow an integrated approach. So try and cover most of the mains topics before. it's not always possible to do it completely, but try and do a significant part of your optional and a significant part of your mains. Mains and prelims overlap to a quite large extent, so do it in that integrated manner. And those 80 days will mostly be revision, so you won't have that much of a problem.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Next is Shalu Yadav. Shalu Yadav, please unmute yourself and ask your query to the teacher specifically.
Hi, sir. So I am actually in the second year of my college. I'm pursuing BA Political Science Honors from Delhi University. So I wanted to ask, is this the right time for the preparations of the UPSC, or should I wait for a year more to prepare? So I want
Your query is for whom?
Raunak, sir.
Raunak sir, please help.
Yeah, hi Shalu. The thing is that there is no specific time when to start. Whenever you decide that I need to prepare for UPSC, that is the right time to start. And rather you have another year in graduation, that is the best time. You have lots of time in your hand. Start preparing from now onwards, and then I think it will be better to start now itself.
Okay, so I'm actually preparing from the NCRT. I'm just trying to strong my base right now, and after everything opens up, I'll just start taking coaching for it now.
Okay, great. All the best.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Shalu. So next question, I'm giving opportunity to Abhinav. Abhinav, please ask your question directly. No greetings, one question only.
So my question is, sir, how one should start writing for essay? How to collect data and information so that one would be able to write a good essay.
Okay, and your queries for whom?
So for Raunak, sir.
Raunak sir.
Okay, so the thing is that while when you see a particular topic, you should not start writing at that instant itself. Save 10 to 15 minutes for the skeleton work. So when there are 2 essays to be written in 3 hours, so make in mind that you have to have 30 minutes for the skeleton, 15 minutes for each. Now, make your mind at how you will start the essay, like whether you will want to start with a poem or with a story or with history, anything which you can start with. Secondly, how many dimensions you want to include in it. That dimensions can be historically, the dimensions can be on the basis of time period, that dimension can be on the basis of subjects like history, economy, polity. So understand the dimensions. Thirdly, most importantly, how you're going to introduce the subheadings. Like many people prefer writing subheadings. I also wrote that. So divide your entire essay into 3 or 4 subheadings and then decide what to include in which subheading. And most importantly, I would like to focus again here, the introduction and conclusion are really important, because introduction sets the tone for the entire essay and conclusion set the tone for the marks. So these 2 are really important. So save your important data or important quotes or important lines for the introduction and conclusion. Was it fine, Abhinav? So you're not audible right now. Yeah. Sir, you're muted actually.
Mirza Naeem, please ask your question. Mirza Naeem.
गुड आफ्टरनून सर.
Go ahead.
सर मैं जम्मू कश्मीर से बोल रहा हूँ
जी.
सर इस साल पहला ईयर है, हम प्रेपरेशन कर रहे हैं यूपीएससी के लिए
जी.
तो क्या स्ट्रेटेजी रहेगी कि सर फर्स्ट ईयर में जो है यूपीएससी क्रैक कर पाए, और न्यूज़पेपर को सर कैसे पढ़ना चाहिए? ये 2 क्वेश्चन है रौनक सर के.
रौनक सर बता दें. रौनक प्लीज अनम्यूट योरसेल्फ.
ओके सॉरी. पहला बात, हम फर्स्ट ईयर में क्रैक नहीं कर पाया था, तो ऐसा बिल्कुल माइंड फ्रेम में मत रखना कि हमको फर्स्ट ईयर में क्रैक करना है. इंटेंशन रखना चाहिए, बट कभी भी ये नहीं रखना चाहिए कि फर्स्ट ईयर में ही करना है. सेकेंडली, हाउ टू रीड न्यूज़पेपर्स. आप स्टिक टू वन न्यूज़पेपर राइट नाउ. हिंदू है, इंडियन एक्सप्रेस है, व्हाटएवर यू वांट टू फॉलो एंड रीड. जैसे आई फॉलोड इंडियन एक्सप्रेस, तो हम उसका फ्रंट पेज पढ़ता था, उसका जो नेशन वाइड न्यूज है वो पढ़ता था. अलॉन्ग विद दैट उसमें एक एक्सप्लेन्ड पेज आता है, वो बहुत हमको बहुत ज्यादा वैल्यूएशन लगता था, वो प्रीलिम्स और मेंस दोनों के लिए. एंड जो एडिटोरियल है वो आप आप डिसाइड कर सकते हैं पढ़ना है कि नहीं पढ़ना है. मतलब कितना बार क्या होता है कि एक पर्टिकुलर टॉपिक पे 5 दिन तक आता रहता है. Not necessary you have to read each and every point, every editorial. You have to evaluate कौन सा read करना है, कौन सा नहीं करना. और बहुत सारे editorials political based होते हैं, वो मत पढ़िए. Not needed for exams. And financial news है, वो भी एक पढ़ लीजिएगा क्योंकि वो economy में help करेगा.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Best of luck.
Okay, next is Divya. Divya, can you unmute yourself now and ask your query?
Hello, sir. This is Sunena.
Oh, Sunana, please go ahead.
Yes, sir. So my question is that I am very much passionate about IFS, but and IIS, but when it comes to other services, then my motivation goes down. So is UPSC worth my effort? Is worth the call for me?
If you're preparing for IAS, it is definitely worth the effort.
No, sir. IFS, Indian Foreign Service only.
If it is IFS,
because I have foreign languages background.
Now I will tell you this thing will be answered by Himanshu himself because he himself has chosen IFS as a service and that is rank 27. He himself.
Yes.
Please.
See, according to me, all of the services, there are around more than 24 services in the entire UPSC list. All are really crucial. And the thing is, we do not know about these services, what all roles and responsibilities and challenges they have. So if you try and see what all there are, probably you would be interested in all of these services. Yes, there is a priority of interest now. There are preferences which are asked from UPSC to you. So accordingly, you can decide that I have my first preference as this, and maybe second or third preference as something else. So my suggestion would be to please see what all challenges, what all roles are there in each and every service. You will get to know a lot of things that are happening within every service. There are a lot of people who are doing really good things in each service. So please try and look into every service, and then you will be deciding on what preferences you would need.
Okay, thank you so much, sir.
I would like to add, Sunana, one more thing.
Yes, sir.
Even if there is one seat of IFS and that is only for the topper, then also it is worth trying.
Yeah.
You deserve what you want. And if you do not deserve what you want, work on yourself, make yourself a deserving candidate. Do not feel frightened. You're not fighting for the last seat.
Yes.
Okay. You're fighting for the seat that you want. Do not have any kind of negativity about that. That kind of an attitude will actually always breed the second, third or fourth choice that you have.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
If it requires, if there's only one seat of IFS, only reserved for one person, I will take it up.
So because I don't want to do it because of power or prestige, but because of my passion for the
That is why I said even there if there's one rank,
yes,
one
yes.
seat only for rank 1, then also you should do it. That's it. Period.
Thank you, sir.
So Pratiksha, I'm giving you opportunity to unmute yourself.
Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, everybody. So my doubt is regarding the answer writing and mains exam. There is a few questions come for critical analysis, and so there is a common issue that comes up where we have certain bias, and like Raunak sir told about adding more dimensions to a single point to show your information, how much information you know on the topic. So, sir, how do we counterculture this? How do we balance out and maintain a neutral stand when we are writing such kind of critical analysis answers?
Who should answer this question for you?
Anybody is equally. I think Raunak sir maybe or Himanshu sir. Yeah.
Himanshu sir is here.
Okay, for critical analysis, I would say you should have the information and knowledge about the other perspectives also. If you have knowledge, if you have read about those things, let's say you read editorials and opinions, you read counter perspectives also. So even if you are reading compilations, mains compilations, they where the place where they give advantages of certain thing, they always also give the disadvantages of those things. And if the question specifically asks critical analysis, then you should be able to take a critical viewpoint also, and in the end you can take your standpoint also. It's not so UPSC is not so judgmental on you that even if you have taken a stand and if you are not, see, it is about justification. If you are able to justify whatever you have written in the main body and in the conclusion you are able to draw a conclusion, it's very well, and there is no issue on that.
So, sir, if we are critically analyzing, is it better to maintain a factual stand on such answers, or should we very openly give our own opinion in a balanced way?
See, it depends on the topic, but generally speaking, a balanced answer is much preferred. But it also depends on the topic. If the topic is really biased, or really in terms that you have to take a particular stand in a certain direction only, you can take that stand, provided you are justifying that in your mind's body.
Thank you.
Himanshu, I would just like to add one thing. Just conclude with a forward-looking conclusion. मतलब अगर not stand नहीं भी लेना तो ये suppose national education policy कैसा है तो हम बोलेगा कि ना खराब है. Just say कि ऐसा हो सकता था तो हम लोग ऐसा कर पाएंगे. This is also fine.
Okay, thank you. Harsha Shekhar, please unmute yourself and ask your query.
Hello, good afternoon, sir.
Go ahead.
And congratulations, sir. Congratulations for your success. I really want to ask something. I really need help here.
Please
because whenever I start study, I find myself flooded with so much contents to me. Like it comes to me like so many contents are there, so many magazines, so many online contents are there. Like DNS is there, and their notes are there, and they are so bulky to read. Really, they are so bulky to me to cover all those things in a single day. That took me a lot of time, and I find myself that I'm flooded over the contents, and I just bugged it up, and I just close my books and all and go with that. How am I going to do that? How should I study? How should I even start preparation? What to do exactly? That is the most needed thing. That is the need of the hour for me. Please do.
I think this is the story of every other aspirant, and you have plethora of resources, and actually this is the thing that there is a FOMO thing, if you have heard of, fear of missing out. So that is what is affecting us. So you always have that fear that, oh, I'll miss that particular topic from that particular compilation. Let me pick it up and read it entirely. So that fear is actually taking all the aspirants.
But my case is, I have all the material of Rouse IAS. I'm not the student, I'm not admitted there, but I already have those because of my brothers and sisters, and they gave me that. I'm really thankful to those. But those books are really nice. I used to read them all every day. I used to watch those DNS videos. I read to all the focus and compass. I read those things. But whenever I start reading, whenever I sit up in my study table and I start reading, things got flooded over me. What should I do? What should I do right now? Whether I should study history, whether I should go with polity, whether I should go with current affairs, what to do? Just
Varsha, since you have mentioned Rouse IAS, I will pitch in now. Now it's my responsibility to guide you through. First thing first, there is a problem that we take up too many subjects for a single day. So smart way of handling this would be take 1 or 2 subjects at max. DNS and newspaper should not take in any case. For example, newspaper, we say that do not invest more than 45 to 50 minutes. Try to read only the important news. How can you shortlist that? You should focus on DNH, identify the good news through the syllabus in the previous year question. If you've been following DNS well enough, you would know that we do only 5 to 6 news on a daily basis. So that is what the crux is. Get this thing. Moreover, once you're in a position to do that, then you can drop this thing. Refer to the notes. If you're doing daily DNS, then ultimately what will happen? The focus magazine will become a cakewalk. So try to minimize the load. I think there is a tendency among the people to study for 12 hours, 14 hours, 16 hours. That is not possible. Please be rational, be human. Okay. And do simple tasks first, get your footsteps in the right direction, and ultimately you will definitely get success. So
I am an assistant professor of political science. So
wow.
I have to study political science like every day for my students. And then I have to prepare for this also. And I have to go through all these things. Time management is very crucial for me right now. And I really don't understand what to do exactly. How to prepare exactly. What are the basics for the preparation exactly? What should I do? And my students also ask me this, and I'm like blank. I don't know what to do. In fact, I don't know anything. How can I answer that question?
See, firstly,
so now I'm here.
I would say pick up anything. Okay, don't worry about that, whether history, polity, geography. Pick up anything, whatever you like. Just pick up one thing and complete that thing first. I think that would solve your anxiety thing first of all, because the thing happens is that when you start doing polity, in the midway only you see something else. Okay, this material is good, let me jump to history now, or I'm feeling bored for this subject, let me jump to this thing. Don't do that thing. Pick up one thing, complete that thing. If you are feeling so bored, take up another, let's say one more subject. At max 2 subjects, you can go with 2 subjects on a daily basis. That's how you can do it. And I think you, according to time management, it's the best thing if you can take out 4 or 5 hours for you every day, not 4, let's say 3 hours every day, because people who are doing full-time preparation, it's actually difficult. We have plenty of time and we tend to procrastinate stuff. You only have that limited time, you can utilize that time very well. So just take out time and pick up anything which you like, but one subject or at max 2 subjects, finish them off, then jump to the next thing.
Sir, I want to ask a Rouse team one more thing.
Please.
Sir, I have that material of 2014-15. So
that has been
it is
updated
now,
drastically.
yeah,
That has been updated drastically.
that has been updated.
Buy again.
So buy again. I have to buy that again. So how am I going to do that in this kind
We'll
of
talk about this. You can
lockdown?
send a mail to us. We'll help you out.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you for letting me ask
Not
my
a problem.
question.
This is the last query that I'm going to take. Now, I thank you everyone for your participation. I'm really sorry I cannot take any more queries. Raunak has been very busy and very consistent in this entire process. He answered so much. So I thank Raunak, Himanshu, Jatin, everyone, Namgyal. They have done fantastic. Sanjita, all of them have been fantastic. You people have been fantastic. And if you have any other query, please feel free to reach out to us. Our email IDs are available on the website, that is contact@rouseyes.com and mymentor@rouseyes.com. If you have a query like that, please feel free to post your query. We will definitely try to answer it as soon as possible. I thank you all for participation. This was a great session. We really loved having you all over here. And we're looking forward that if you have any kind of requirement for online hybrid courses, you can subscribe to Rouse IAS. This will actually help you in understanding how to do the entire process in the right direction. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Raunak. Thank you all the speakers. And thank you, everyone. May God bless you all.